Howdy kids, it's me, Bob Harris, Senior Editor of FootballDiehards.com. Time for the Week 12 Football Diehards Injury Review, Preview, Update, Overview thing. Something I like to do every Saturday, get you up to speed on injuries, let you know who's in, who's out, what the game time decisions are, kind of run through them in chronological order to give you an idea of what kind of fallback plans you need to have in place. Also, I'll remind you, whatever information here is good about through the middle of Saturday afternoon. Just a little bit afternoon Eastern time. So check the main page of the site, the late breaking updates section. Any updates or any changes that occur will be reflected there. Also check on Sunday, early Sunday morning, right up through each kickoff and the 90 minutes leading up to kickoff. I'll have the inactive announcements with articles on the guys that we're talking about here, and we'll have the full inactive list available as well on the site. So with that said, I'll remind you the Cardinals, Chiefs, Chargers, and Vikings are all on bye this week. It's the last bye week, so we don't have to deal with that anymore. This is a tough bye week, though, so keep that in mind. Get those guys out of your lineups. The early afternoon kickoffs. James Conner has been ruled out for the Steelers. Juju Smith-Schuster also ruled out. So on the other side of the football, Auden Tate listed as questionable after a scary injury in Oakland last week. Not sure if he's going to make it on the field. AJ Green has been ruled out. Not sure you want to play a lot of Bengals anyway. It's a pretty tough matchup, and they're not good. For the Steelers, with James Conner out, Benny Snell returns this week, so he'll be in the mix. Jalen Samuels, obviously in the mix. Pretty good PPR play, I think. Trey Edmond, kind of the wild card. I think Snell will get some run as the ball carrier here, as the primary ball carrier, maybe even so. But it's going to be a split. You got to watch that and be careful. As for the wideouts, Deontay Johnson, coming off a concussion, has been cleared. He'll be in action again in a good matchup. James Washington in a good matchup. So their quarterback kind of a limiting factor. I think Vance McDonald might be a good play in this one too, given the matchup. So moving on, the Eagles hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Jordan Howard is listed as questionable with the same shoulder injury that sidelined him last week. He was not cleared for contact through Friday again, so seemed to be in the same boat as last week when he didn't play. This week, Miles Sanders would obviously be first man up, but this week you would expect Jay Ajayi, who was signed last week, active but didn't play. He's more ready, and the Eagles suggest he'll have a role if there is no Howard. Boston Scott also in the mix there. Alshon Jeffrey's questionable with an ankle injury, worked on a limited basis all week. Nelson Aguilar did not practice all week, still listed as questionable with a knee injury. Doug Peterson kind of suggested that they were both going to try and give it a go. Beyond them is Mac Hollins, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Jordan Matthews. If there is no Aguilar, maybe Matthews in the slot would have a pretty favorable matchup. Beyond that, it seems a little dicey if those guys aren't playing, except for the tight ends. Those guys would be great plays, right? Dallas Goedert getting a fair amount of targets. Obviously, Zach Ertz, a good play as well, great play as well. So that'd be the directions. As for the Seahawks, the good news is Tyler Lockett's off the injury report. Everyone's pretty much off the injury report. Ed Dixon was placed back on injured reserve, came back for a few days, and couldn't hang, so they put him back on IR. Jacob Hollister's kind of locked in as the tight end one there. Luke Wilson, dealing with a hamstring injury, did not get an injury designation at the end of the day, so but still seemed like that injury was kind of dicey. For the Atlanta Falcons, hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Devonta Freeman and Austin Hooper ruled out, as you'd expect. The second missed game for both of them. Brian Hill will get the start. Kadri Allison, maybe Kenyon Barner, Keith Smith will all chip in. Hill, kind of a disappointment last week, and it's a tough matchup against the Bucs this week, at least running-wise. Hooper, it was Jaden Graham and Luke Stalker. Hard to rely on either of those. The wide receivers here look great, though, in this matchup. There's Julio Jones. Matt Ryan and Julio Jones came off the injury report. They took a day off Wednesday, but they're both fine. No injury designations. Calvin Ridley, even Russell Gage, I think, are great plays in this one. Other side of the ball is all clear. Just Jameis Winston had an ankle issue. He is avoided injury designation. For the Chicago Bears, hosting the New England Patriots, Adam Shaheen is out. Mitchell Trubisky will play. Cleared off the injury report, practiced fully all week, had the hip injury that kind of sidelined him late last game. On the other side of the ball, there is no tight ends. Well, Evan Ingram's been ruled out with a foot injury, and Red Elson with a concussion. That leaves Scott Simonson. Caden Smith kind of is under the radar guys. Beyond that, Sterling Shepard is cleared, and he'll return to action this week, so watch that as well. It's a pretty tough matchup for Golden Tate. I don't know if Darius Slayton's going to continue to be a contributor. Might be a little bit tricky for him. Shepard back in the mix. For the Detroit Lions at Washington, Matt Stafford's ruled out again. Jeff Driscoll will start. Seems like a reasonably good play. He's been pretty productive the last couple of weeks. Check my DFS 3 and out column for more on that. In addition, Bo Scarborough looks like he'll continue to be in the mix after a surprise start last week, so watch for that as well. Also, Ty Johnson and J.D. McKissick in the mix. On the other side of the ball, Adrian Peterson is listed as questionable with a toe injury. Darius Geis is back. If you saw last week, on the field a little more than Peterson. So that's something to note. He seems like the more explosive play. Peterson listed as questionable with a toe injury that shouldn't sideline him, but may limit him. Certainly not at 100%. Chris Thompson could return. I think it's been like a 4-game absence for him with a toe injury. 4 or 5. Time goes by. He is questionable as well. Looks like he could get back. Vernon Davis has been placed on injured reserve with the concussion that he suffered in week 4. They've kind of been trying to work him back, didn't make it. Denver Broncos at Buffalo. Tim Patrick moved right back into the starting lineup last week, was very busy, but hurt his shoulder. Went to the locker room for a while, came back, finished the game, played well. He is listed as questionable with that same shoulder injury. My guess is he'll play in this one. Jeff Hireman, the tight end, also questionable. I'm not so sure about him. It's a tough matchup against the Buffalo Bills for all involved, right? For Cortland Sutton, even for Noah Fant, the tight end who's coming on a bit. So watch that one. The other side of the ball is all clear and no injury issues there. New York Jets hosting the Oakland Raiders. Demarius Thomas has the same hamstring issue he's been playing through every week. He has 10 catches over the last 2 games. And it's a pretty favorable matchup for Sam Darnold, Jameson Crowder, Ryan Griffin, Robbie Anderson, just the whole crew. So maybe even Le'Veon Bell. For the Cleveland Browns at Miami, David Njoku had hoped to return this week, practice some, but he will not return from IR. It looks like next week for him. New Orleans Saints, Zach Line, the fullback, has been ruled out with knee injury. Austin Carr, the receiver, placed on IR. No major fantasy impact. They've done some bottom-of-the-end roster moves to provide some additional blocking for Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray, so that's worth noting. The late afternoon kickoffs. This is where it gets tricky, people. It's the New England Patriots hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are good to go. Amari Cooper off the injury report, but it's a tough matchup for them. The Patriots defense is very tough. On the offensive side of the ball, we've got a range of questionable guys. Starts with Tom Brady, listed as questionable right elbow. Almost entirely being reported by local media, pretty much every local media outlet and all the national media outlets. This was just a management issue. They limited him in practice just to keep his arm fresh, and he's going to be fine and play as usual. So, again, I've been updating regularly on the late-breaking update section, and I'll continue to do that right up through kickoff. Julian Edelman, also questionable with a shoulder injury. No reason to believe he won't play. He's been questionable pretty much every week, and he plays regardless, and nobody worried about that. There is concern, however, for Mohamed Sanu, questionable with an ankle injury, and Philip Dorsett, who's questionable coming off a concussion. As of this morning, Mike Reese from ESPN reports that Dorsett still has not been cleared. So in particular, and Sanu, the reporting is he has a high ankle sprain, and multiple local observers are reporting he will not play. Most recently, the Boston Herald, as I outlined in a late-breaking update just an hour or so ago. So those will be the guys worth watching. Obviously, N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers would play greater roles if they can't go. I'll be following up on this one right up through kickoff, so watch the overnight news, and the late-breaking update section will have more on all these guys. Dallas Cowboys, as I mentioned, all clear. The only other late afternoon game is the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Tennessee Titans. Delaney Walker listed as doubtful. Doesn't look like he'll return. Been missing time with that lingering ankle issue. He did get in some practice time this week. The other side of the ball, Seth DeValve, the tight end, has been ruled out with an oblique issue. It's hard to play any of those guys, the wide receivers. The top 3 wide receivers with Nick Foles back seem viable. DJ Chark in particular. I think Chris Conley's more of a play than people realize, and D.D. Westbrook remains a play. But the tight ends, not so much. So beyond that, we go to Sunday night, and that one's going to be tricky as well. Emmanuel Sanders, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, all listed as questionable. The early reporting is all of them will play, or there's optimism that all of them will play. Again, it's a Sunday night kickoff. You know, your risk tolerance levels, your fallback options are going to be determinative. Watch the late breaking update section again there. I will have much more. I've been updating regularly on those guys. Just my sense is those 3, it looks like they're going to return this week or going to play. Kittle will return. Sanders and Samuel will play. Samuel hurt his shoulder in the game last week and finished the game. Sanders played through his rib injury last week. Doesn't look as good for Matt Breida and Robbie Gould, both listed as doubtful. Gould will be replaced by Chase McLaughlin again. It's been a mixed bag for him, right? Monday night, Brandon Cooks has been cleared from his concussion, so expect him to return from, I think it's a 2-game absence. Robert Woods, who was a scratch last week for personal issues, returned to the team on Thursday, began practicing. They haven't committed to him playing yet, but he seems like he expects to play. So there you have it. That's our Week 12 issues. As always, check the main page of the site. There will be new stuff coming in right up through each kickoff throughout. Tons of other great content. Be sure to check out Bobby Gomes, former millionaire maker winner at DraftKings, and Kyle Dvorak. You can catch their Wednesday night roster build video, which is available still. You can watch the replay of that. On Sunday morning, you'll see they go live and do some roster tweaking and answer your questions. That's at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So be sure to tune in for that as well. Tons of good content up as well. In addition, John Lobbs, the Scholars DraftKings Sheet of Knowledge. Brad Cruz, one of the top high stakes players in the world, gives us the sit starts, the Thursday and Sunday edition. Sunday edition is up now. Beyond that, my DFS 3 now, Justin Lanero, Kyle Dvorak, Gary Davenport. Tons of content up. Matthew Sharon, Mike Valverde. Check out Gary Davenport's The Shadow Knows in addition to his IDP tip sheet too. If you haven't been checking that out, it's great stuff. So there we have it. You can listen to me, Football Diehards, on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio every weekday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We're on 2 hours every day except Thursday. We're an hour for the pregame show. So Saturday night, you can catch me on SiriusXM NFL Radio, the Football Diehards on that channel as well, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Myself and Mike Dempsey. On Sunday morning, you can catch me on the SiriusXM pregame show with Jeff Manns. That's from 11 to 1 p.m., obviously. So do all that. Check the site. Get all the stuff. Be the best informed owner in your league. Win some games. Get into the playoffs. I'll talk to you next week.